See, he didn't say, oh, if you pray harder, you will have more faith. Come on, church.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I just feel like I need to tell this real quick because it's about giving. And it's about your faith. And it's about putting out there. It's about a sacrifice. And I just feel like the Lord wanted me to say this. I was a little bit, like that. But it's for you because I want people to really ask the Lord. Because I want you to think about it's for you and it's for them. Okay, because I know that when God stretches your faith, when he wants you to give sacrificially, it's because he wants to do a miracle. He wants to do a miracle in your life. When he asks you to give beyond what you normally give or what, you give your tithe and that's good and all. But when the prophet comes in, I just remember when I had gone to Abundant Life years ago, and there was this guy named Rudy McLean that had come in there and he was ministering years ago. And I was a single mom, and I probably was like $100 short every month, right, from paying my bills, right? I cleaned houses. But I knew that God had called me. I knew that I had a call of God on my life, and I knew he had called me to ministry. And I was a single mom, and I needed a new vehicle. And I knew that God had called me to ministry, and I needed my own home, okay? And I was believing God for all these things, but I didn't know how to get there. But I knew that God loved me. I knew I had God's favor, right? And this guy begins to preach a message about giving sacrificially, giving till it hurt, right? And I started thinking, well, God, and he talked about a miracle. If you need a miracle in your life, if you're asking God for things, begin to just ask the Lord, okay, Father, what do I have that I could give to sow into you, Lord, to sow into the spirit realm, to sow in so that I can receive what I am believing God for myself. And so I had this engagement ring that was my grandmother's. It was the only thing that I had that was really worth any money, except for my kids. No, I could have sold them back. They would have gave them back, right? But anyway, so I had this ring, and I felt like the Lord had said to me that if you don't sow something that's a sacrifice to you, that sacrifice that hurts, right? Something that's risky, something like, oh my gosh, I have the freedom to give this because it's mine. It's not like it was somebody else's. I mean, you don't give away something that's not yours, right? But I knew it was mine, and the Lord began to speak to me about sewing this ring. And so I showed this story in the prophetic class. So I sewed this ring, and it was hard for me to do, but I had this excitement in my spirit. It was like this tug of war, right? You're like, oh, yes, Lord, I know that you're faithful to respond to that, right? I know that you're faithful. So I was excited, but then I was scared. I was excited, but then I was scared. So when he gave the altar call, the whatever, asked you to come and bring your stuff. So I went up there, and I had this ring in my hand, and I went to the front, and I put that ring in. Because they, also drop stuff off at the altar, right? They have their baskets there. Not everybody, passes out the plate, at the benches, but so I had to walk all the way up there, right? I had to walk up there, and I threw that ring in there, and I went back to my seat, and my legs were just shaking like Jell-O. I'm like, I guess because I don't know if it was the anointing, or if I was just like, scared. I don't know, but I remember shaking all the way back. But I remember giving sacrificially that day of everything that I had that was worth any money, because I didn't have any money to give. I didn't have any money to give. But after I sewed that ring, it wasn't long after that, and I was believing God for a husband. I forgot about that part. I needed a husband.
There we are.
But everything that I had asked the Lord for, after the Lord blessed me with a husband, blessed me with Chuck, he gave me all those things that I had needed of that God met. Every need that I had, I got a new vehicle, my credit cards were paid off, I got a new house, and I didn't know how he was going to do it. I didn't know he was going to bring Chuck into my life, And then as Chuck and I came together and we got married, then teen ministry began to happen. And we started opening up our home for the prophetic because we loved it so much. So then ministry began to happen. But I believe that seed that I sowed was so important to the Lord. You know, so I just want to encourage you today, if you're believing God for something that you don't see there's any way that it could happen in that, and it's so much, you know, and it's so big, ask the Lord today, is what can I give? What can I sow into the ministry of the two prophets? Actually, there's two prophets here. But to sow into their lives, because it's a fruitful ministry. And I'm not doing it just for them, although I am, because I love them so much. But I'm asking you to step out in faith and believe God for something bigger than you've ever believed Him for. And to sow that seed to the Lord. To the Lord.